the facts. So good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Cannon. I am the senior marketing, what am I? Senior marketing, they keep moving the words around. I'm a manager. Hey, what do you know? At Microsoft, I look after voice. I have looked after Skype for Business in the past and still do to a certain extent, but my primary focus is driving voice inside Teams and making sure that all the customers are messaged appropriately. You know, really a lot of times in marketing we focus on, and especially for the voice workload, and I focus on awareness. And so you wonder, what does a marketing person do? And hopefully you think that in a positive way. A lot of it is awareness. So that's what this session's about, is to drive, again, a uniform awareness about what we're offering in voice and understanding where we're going in the future with it, and try to demo a couple of features. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Anna. I'm on the same team with Paul, Product and Marketing Manager at Microsoft Teams, for Microsoft Teams, focusing on Teams devices and voice. Yeah, we're glad to be here today.
Yeah, it's great. And I tried to get a guest speaker, but today we're joined by Mr. Ye Link. He'll be here on this chair. I'm sorry, I don't have a projector for this device, but this thing is everywhere. If you've seen our GM Lori Wright's session yesterday, we were highlighting this device. This device is down, I believe, in our booth, and I would guess that the woman with the camera, who probably knows Mr. Ye Link and probably works for him, is sitting in the front row. They have tons of these devices, so I highly recommend you go look at these. These are a beautiful device. So they'll... 2137. That's great. Now we have somebody actually, you know, bombing my session, suggesting where to go. So that's all. Sir, I'll be in charge of the bombing of my own session, please. Thank you. So great. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So the learning objectives are pretty clear. I want you to understand voice. I want you to understand what Microsoft is doing for voice and how it is ready for voice in your enterprise. Now, obviously, ready is a interesting term. I know that voice is a long time. I'm kidding around about this earlier, but it's really serious. Voice is a long tail workload, which is why they try to kill the older staff in marketing to manage it, because they know this is a large space. There's a lot of features. Some of you are in very different places in your workload. We're talking about a thing that was created over 100 years ago, right? Before there was even a computer, there was voice. So it does make for challenging. But we do want to make sure that you understand that, and you understand our investment in Teams and our continued commitment to Teams being the platform, the sole platform for voice in the cloud. All right, so I won't spend a lot of time here because, again, many of these slides were with the intent of I had 75 minutes, not 45 minutes. So I think it's just important to understand how many people are using Microsoft Office 365 today. That's an amazing number, 135 million. In fact, I didn't even check. Anna would probably tell me, oh, they just upped that number again, what we're saying to folks. But that is a huge number of people using the product. What that translates to, and by the way, when you wonder, what does that really mean? That means they're using one or more workloads in Teams on a monthly basis. And so that's what we see here. Not just logging in, but actually doing one or more tasks inside the product. And that's one of the great things about Graph, by the way, is that we can actually see that data and understand how customers as an aggregate are using it. I think the other one I'm particularly proud of, given I've been 6 years on this team, which is, you know, for the last 12 years, and I've contributed to half of this number, is really we're in the leader quadrant for Gartner. That's pretty important. Gartner is the 800-pound gorilla of the analysts. Sorry to any Gartner people sitting in the room. I apologize, but it's usually nice to be called the 800-pound gorilla. So, and so the impact of having us in that leader quadrant means there's a lot of trust in terms of what Microsoft can deliver. So, all right. That being said, work is changing, and many of you have probably seen a slide like this before. This is one of our core slides. It turns up a lot in the Teams deck. I'm not going to go through a lot of this, but really, for me, and I think I have a certain amount of credibility in this space, given the amount of gray hair I'm sporting on the stage right now. The work is changing, and you can see that, right? You look at Anna, who's at a stage in her career. You look at me, who's at the final stage of his career, and you can see that the workloads are changing, right? Right now, Anna and I are being, right this week, as we're here at Ignite, they're moving the entire marketing org into essentially collaborative cube spaces. There are a few offices here and there, but there'll be collaborative cube spaces. The workload is changing, and with that changing face, that means there's different kinds of workers in your organization as well. Not just Microsoft is changing, all of us are changing. And they have different expectations, right? How they feel about voice. I can tell you that 5 years ago, customers would have strangled me if I said, you know what, you're going to be tearing phones off of people's desks, right? You know, the beginnings of that happened, and today we've watched, right? Because we execute surveys. We love to do customer surveys. And you can see that number. I remember doing anybody remember a link TCO? I was one of the people who helped produce that TCO document that then was shared publicly. That was a few years ago during the link era. And the typical number of phones, anybody want to guess the average, not the high end or low end, but the average number in terms of percentage of a deployment? Okay, no guessing. 55% was what we saw, right? Obviously, you could say some are more and some are less. It's all industry driven, right? Everybody has a phone in insurance, for instance, but not necessarily in other things. That number's dropped already by about 20 points, as far as we can tell, right? Again, that's based on surveys. So it's really interesting, right? What's driven the whole experience of how people are using these products and the experience is also that voice is no longer, voice was a standalone workload, I would describe it as, at best. It was critical, essential, but adding those in, right? How did you capture important information in voice? Somebody at a PC was typing that in later into some kind of piece of software, right? Very hard to capture that. Recordings, but the recordings are analog, right? What's changing is that the expectations are much higher now. We're going to be delivering voice, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, but we're going to deliver voice with things like transcription, translation, right? The ability to say, hey, my boss just had a meeting, and I know he gave me, and I missed it, and I have to figure out if he talked about me in this meeting, and I can search for Paul Cannon, and literally, Office 365 will come back and say, hey, in this meeting file, you're mentioned 3 times, and I feel bad for you for the amount of work you have. It won't say that part, but it will actually figure out where you've been mentioned, and then you can actually do it, because nobody searches meetings. I don't. Like, if we had meeting recordings, someone said, hey, I recorded that meeting, I'm like, great job. I'm going to go back and listen to that for 75 minutes. No time to do that. But if I can spend 5 minutes to look through or have the power of Office 365 AI and the graph look through that meeting for me, then I will. Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's hop in. So this is a core slide to understand how we think about our offerings. Most of you should be experienced with it. Obviously, Office 365. Inside it is the modern workplace, which is Microsoft Teams. And as part of that is phone system. This was formerly known as Cloud PBX in the SFBO heydays, but we renamed it a while back, and now that is phone system. So first important thing to remember, phone system. That is one of the core things you're going to have to use PSTN, for instance, inside Microsoft Teams. Because when we talk about voice, let's face it, right? We talk about both. At first, I'll talk about the PSTN portion, and then there's collaborative work. PSTN continues to remain obviously kind of important, be able to deliver that inside your companies. All right, so how does Microsoft solve that, right? So we have a couple of options. Back in December, I announced the calling plans for Microsoft were now available inside Teams, and we began lighting up those countries that we had previously lit up for Skype for Business Online. So that's great, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but the other option you have is direct routing. Direct routing we announced in June of this year, so it may be new for some of you. You may have kind of just heard about it. That's why that session on Friday with I like to say the DR of DR, which is the Doctor of Direct Routing, Nikolai, highly recommend that you catch that session. And I'll talk a little bit here about what it means to have direct routing. But direct routing is essentially about geo-completion as far as the business owner, the marketing person feels about it. It helps me tell customers we can deliver PSTN in many more countries than the original ones. So let me just drill in here a little bit quickly. So, and again, so our tagline really is around phone system when paired with calling plans and or direct routing provides a full business calling experience in Office 365 on a global scale. Okay, so what are the parts that are important for you to understand so that you walk out of the room and go, oh, I know I need to think about A, B, and C. Well, A is phone system. That really is our PBX that's in the cloud, completely software-based. maybe one of the most important features is essentially that. It is a cloud-based PBX. So when you move to Microsoft Office 365 or continue deploying Office 365, you are essentially, and want to use our cloud PBX, our phone system, you're going to be able to begin replacing hardware throughout your infrastructure, right? And pretty soon you're getting that PBX out of that closet in that building or in that campus and saving that money and moving that into the cloud and managing it in one single place. I know many, many of our customers who are multinational and literally have vendor by country for these PBXs, which is really, I just can't imagine. That's such a challenge to manage and probably expensive, right? And so the single point about moving to the cloud is being able to centralize this software and have it available and have a uniform approach to managing it. Okay, so the second B is calling plans. And calling plans essentially is what I talked about. This is the white glove Microsoft approach to PSTN availability in your tenant. In other words, you choose Microsoft as your sole provider. That means now we don't own a bunch of trunks, PSTN trunks or SIP trunks, whatever you want to call them. But what we actually do is we have partners in the back end, but you never deal with that partner. What we do is provide you a package service, and you can manage it. And it's great as long as we meet the capabilities you require out of the system. The management interface is completely built in Office 365. You request numbers from us that we've gotten numbers already. You can execute easily port orders against your existing set of numbers to bring those in. You can do lots of different things in terms of managing it, and you manage it like any other license. So you can literally give a bunch of people in a building a license for a year and then change the operation, and those people no longer need that phone license for whatever reason. You can then easily redeploy those licenses to other folks. The one thing I will point out is that it's currently available from Microsoft in 10 countries, or 10, I would say 10 geographies. When they originally created the slide and I caught them on it, they were like, oh, it's available in Puerto Rico. Well, last I checked, Puerto Rico is part of the United States, notwithstanding what certain government officials may feel about that. But we do think of it as a separate location, right? And so it is a different location. You can get there. And then I show a slightly different approach for Australia. We are partnered with Telstra there. They're doing a calling plan-like experience, which you can acquire in Australia. So that's great, but like any devotee of American public schools, you might have noticed that you might say, gee, Paul, that doesn't feel like we've got all the coverage of all the countries. There's another 149 or so, or whatever the right number is. Like I said, I went to public school here in the United States, so you'll have to forgive my geography lessons here a little bit. I remember one day I actually presented a similar slide on a different topic, and there was an Australian wag in the audience, as they are, and the Australian customer raised his hand and said, you know, hey mate, I couldn't help but notice, mate, that Australia is not on your world global map. And then he proceeded to give me a tongue lashing about Americans and geography. So I've often taken that to heart afterwards. So what is your second option then? So your second option is direct routing, right? And direct routing essentially is bring your SIP trunks to the party, all right? So what that means is what Microsoft has built is on the right side of this slide, which is around, we've built an interface in Azure, check mark, another Azure mention. That's a joke for those who are in the room early. And so you'll be able to hook those up. Now, the key component is the SBC in the middle. And its job is to obviously do what SBCs do. We've certified those SBCs, working with those vendors. Today, it's audio codes and ribbon, and also even ThinkTel is also mentioned as well. And so you'll be able to then do that. Now, I show, because this session is a little shorter, I show a much simplified architecture on this slide, which focuses on you deploying the SBC inside your organization, right, or a one-to-one relationship. You should be aware that actually, I think a vast majority of deployments will not look like this. They will look more like you will engage a partner who may provide you both the SIP trunks and host these SBCs for you, so you can get to a zero hardware deployment in your organization if that's what you desire. Again, every company is different, right? I spent a third of my career as an IT pro, and I can tell you the vast differences are there. Some of you feel very confident and believe that nobody can do it cheaper than you in-house. Great. Look at this architecture. Many of you say, nope, we're moving up the food chain. We don't want to have a lot of this hardware deployed. And so we support that as well. And then on Friday, Nikolai will cover all those different architectures in a lot more detail. Okay. Even though I've talked a little bit about the changing face of phones in the organization, they're still critically important, right? Depending on how the deployment is going for you. And so, again, I want to introduce Mr. Ye Link, who's sitting in the chair up here. He won't talk a lot, but at some points we will make his head ring. And essentially, you can see that we have a plan for certified Teams devices across many of these different workloads. Personal workspace, like a phone like that, mobile workspaces, shared collaboration spaces, and even conference rooms. And a lot of my colleagues on this very team will be covering all these different concepts. Look for sessions with Angela Donahue in them. She will have these presented. And so we have worked hard, and our partners have worked very hard to provide devices that will allow us to present them. And what's really interesting about these devices, like I'll say about this one, you know, one of the secrets, or one of the, as being a longtime SFBO person or Skype for Business person, I can tell you, sometimes we ended up with different pieces of software scattered across our thing. And then we'd have to implement a feature, and then we'd have to say, how do we get that feature in 8 or 6 or 8 different software or hardware? How do we get the partner with different economics to implement this feature? Always a challenge, right? And I think some of you are old hands will readily attest to this situation. What I'm super excited about is not only is Teams itself a single UI client, in other words, the client that runs on the Mac is the client that runs on Windows. That's huge alone, right? If you're deploying Teams. Yeah, was that a clap? Did I hear a clap? No. Okay, I got all excited there. I was like, oh, our first clap. But this device is running Teams as well. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, again, we're not projecting it in this room, but you'll get a chance to get up and close with this device. It actually is running Teams, and that is amazing. And that means that features that arrive in one place are arriving across our client selection. And I used to look after clients, and that was always one of our challenges, with making sure those features landed across these devices. Okay, so I'm sorry, I did miss one last topic. I do want to point out the small words at the bottom. We've launched a new website. So for those of you who are shy and don't want to go talk to Booth, say the number again, sir.
2137.
If you don't feel like going to 2137, I recommend you do. But if you don't, go out to Teams devices. You'll be able to see a great website that's been built out that explains all the different options and lets you get familiar with them. I'm happy to say that Anna was the lead for marketing side for that. So thank you, Anna, so much for getting that website available. So you guys will be able to begin to see all these certified devices and the partners we're working with. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to cut over to a live demo, and we're going to go ahead and show you a couple, just some of the features in the product right now. Some of you have seen these before, but hopefully you'll still be interested in seeing how we're progressing with Teams. There's one I want to call out because we really can't demo it, but there's something we've been talking about here all week, which is we're saying it's calling for everyone. So today in the Teams UI, how many are using Teams, more or less? Jesus, unbelievable. This is so great. It is always a risk as a speaker to go, how many are doing X? And like one guy goes, shh, and puts his arm up because he doesn't even know what the question was. So it's great to see how many of you are using Teams, and I thank you. And Microsoft thanks you for embracing it. So, however, you've probably noticed if you're not using voice in Teams yet, and many of you are not, there is no calling app on the side, but you've probably seen marketing photos, whatever, of our product where there's a calling app. That calling app in the past was only lighting up for PSTN usage. So in other words, you bought PSTN, and then a calling app would light up. Does that feel like Microsoft may have got that order wrong? Maybe it should have been like, hey, we should light up that calling app for all VoIP users, voice over IP, and make sure that they are able to see that so they know that calling's in the product. And then you guys who want to execute your modern plans for enterprise voice have an easier time with everybody understanding where the calling is. And then when you turn on PSTN, it's no longer this mysterious calling app appears in the product, but it's already there. And you've already had experience with it. And hopefully your users have used it for making VoIP calls and looking at contact cards and doing all the other things you would do essentially in a calling portion of a product. So this week, we're happy to announce that we're beginning to light up that calling icon for everyone using Teams. So I'm going to be spending the rest of the year on Aruba because now you guys will just drive all this work for me, and I thank you so much. But it's great. So now all of your users will get exposed to this. And so when the time comes and it's the right time for your organization to say, hey, boss, hey, hey, CIO, hey, CTO, whatever, whomever it might be, I want to go ahead and move us on, start looking at a true cloud voice solution from Teams, everyone will say, yeah, that sounds great. And if you take the next step and do a pilot or turn it on, it'll just light up that icon with additional abilities to dial phone numbers beyond the usual VoIP work. So that's exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. So I've stolen so much time away from Anna, so I'm going to go ahead and give it back to her now, and we're going to go ahead and jump into a live demo.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Are you enjoying your session so far? Thank you. So since Ignite last year, we have invested heavily in voice to make it easy and approachable. And while Paul is enjoying Aruba, let's get some real work done. So I have a couple of great scenarios I would like to show you today. And now let's get started. All right. So you already see the Teams Teams app up on the screen. Here is the calls tab that Paul just mentioned. So we are going to roll out this call tab to all the Teams app. And we all have different work styles. And like many of you, I like to use keyboard shortcuts. So Teams has provided this command bar. And let's see. Once I type in /, you can see that it automatically brings up a list of available actions, such as changing status right away. And it supports calling. So once I type in call, hit enter. You see, Teams is very smart. It knows who I work with most often. So now, since I just got one of my customers, the Yearlink phone, Megan Bo and the Yearlink phone, so I'm going to call Megan. And I type in Megan's name. Once I select Megan, the call will start right away.
Hello, this is Megan.
Hey, Megan. How do you enjoy your phone so far?
Makes my voice sound deep.
That's great. So, thank you. So we will add more actions into this list. Now, Teams also makes it easy for me to collaborate with my teammates. So let's say that I might want to ask for my teammates or my admin's help to receive or make calls on my behalf when I'm out for vacation next week, which is true, by the way. And I can easily set up the delegates in the Teams app, just with a few clicks. Go to Account Setting. Click on Manage Delegates. Here you see that the people I support. As you can see, I'm the manager, so I don't support anyone here. And here, I can add and manage the delegates, your delegate. So let's say, let me add my awesome admin, Paul Cannon. So now he has the rights to make calls and receive calls on my behalf. Okay, this is done. And the Teams also makes it easy for me to take full control of how I want to communicate. So as you know, that in Teams, we have the do not disturb status. And when I'm busy, I might want to set my status as do not disturb. That means people cannot reach me by calls or chat from Teams. But what if there is this really one important call that I don't want to miss? In that case, I can configure certain people with the breakthrough capabilities. So that means they can still reach me anytime, even when I set myself status as do not disturb. And it's very easy to set up as well. So privacy tab, manage priority access. Here, I can add people's name into it. So once I added the name to this list, then this person or this group of people have access to me anytime. And now that you have seen how I configured different types of calls, you might wonder, okay, is it possible for me to set up different ringtones for different types of calls? Yes, you can. And it's easy to do. So calls tab, here you can really choose and play different ringtones for different types of calls. Let's say I want a different ringtone for my forwarded calls. So easy for me to tell. Let's scroll down. We have a list of ringtones you can choose from. Okay, space time. This one sounds interesting. I like it. Okay, great. So now you have seen that how I configure these steps, and let's see what it happens when I get a call.
Great, thank you, Anna. So I'm going to cut over now, and as Anna introduced me, I am in this scenario her admin, which is purely 100% reflective of our real life working together as well. So you can see already, first of all, here is the chat window. Interesting, the chat window. Why? Because it's a collaborative app, and this is where the message has landed and where it should land, because that's where the people look. They don't have to search through the UI to see what's happened. As her delegate, I've been told, hey, she's already set up, and now I can do things in it. So what I can actually now do is I'm going to use an actual, here's where the demo, if the guys in the front row could roll out the net for us in case we tumble off the stage. But we're going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and call into Anna's office, and let's see what I get. And so that phone call is coming in now, and it will ring through. Let's see now, of course, we're down in the dungeon here, so let's see if that's going to behave and ring. Hopefully that will come through. Oh, look at that. It actually, this is the one challenge. It's whether or not cell phones are going to work down inside here. So let me try again and see if I can actually get my phone to ring through. If not, you're going to just have to take my word for it. Okay, here it goes. Now we're ringing. Good. Great. So we can actually hear my PC ringing. Or actually, no, it's actually ringing her PC. Okay. So let's try one more time and see if we can get that. And I'd like audio on my PC if possible, please, John. Thank you. And so I'm going to go ahead and call that one more time. Of course, the demo gods decided to once again punish us. Thank you, demo gods. Yeah. So, sorry. So what you would have seen if the demo was behaving this morning was I would actually get in this lower right-hand corner a toast. And that toast, we call that toast. That's the thing that pops up and tells you what's going on. If you've used Teams, you've seen that toast a lot. I would see an actual, had this been a real live production moment, you'd actually see a toast that would pop up, and it would actually tell you, hey, call for Anna Sau in her office, right? And I could pick it up, and then I could go ahead and execute a consultative transfer to her. So I'm sorry, I just can't walk away from this. Because when you're in marketing, you're into pain. So I'm going to see if we can force this guy to behave and give us that call. No, it looks like it's not going to behave this morning. Okay, unfortunately, you'd see that consultative transfer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, because we're all about cheating in marketing. I'm going to hop over here, open my thing up, and hey, John, audio is not coming from my PC right now, so it'd be great if we could do that. And I'm going to go ahead and manually call. Well, actually, I can't call myself, can I? Let me see. Actually, I can. Let me do that. I swear to God, I'm going to do this if it kills all of you. Ah, that's great. Someone from that's awesome. Okay, so this is what. Good morning, Mr. Clown. Welcome to Anna Sau's office. So thank you, whoever's doing that right now. Please don't hang up. I'd love for you to actually say now that you're doing a demo with me. So now we'll pretend that this is a really important call and not one of you sitting in the audience. Come on, wave at me. Who's doing that to me? You are brilliant, sir. All right, so you can see the options I have, actually. This is called live participation. Here, I'm going to go ahead and you can see already, I'm going to have to mute because my PC is on. So I have an option now to transfer. Okay, that'd be great to kill that, but all right. So I'm going to lean back in, and I'm going to hit consult and transfer. I can go ahead and pull up Anna and hit consult, and now this diagram, this screen appears, and I could actually, again, collaborative F, I could say, hey, that clown is calling in. Sorry, Mr. Clown, I apologize. But I'll do anything for a laugh. So, hey, that clown's calling in, and she'll say, hey, put Mr. Smith through, or I can go ahead and use audio to consultatively chat with Anna, and I'm going to mute, and she'll mute when she takes the call. I knew we were going to do that. It's going to happen. Oh, well. So now Anna and I are actually on a call, and I say, hey, Anna, Mr. Smith is calling in from a faraway country, in fact, would like to speak with you.
Yeah, of course. Please put her through. Thank you.
Great. And I could go ahead and do that. However, I don't trust Mr. Smith a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and hang up that call. But that is actually delegation and consultative transfer. Thank you very much, by the way. That was awesome. Yep. Okay. So let's go ahead. Anna, I think you have some more you'd like to show them, so let's go ahead and keep moving.
Yes. Great. So now let's switch gears. I would like to show you a couple of advanced scenarios if you are an IT pro. So you see today I'm still using the Skype for Business Admin Center. In future, we are going to migrate the capabilities to the modern portal, and we expect to have the preview available in Q4 of this calendar year. And on the Voice tab, here is where I assign the new phone numbers to users and services. So two different types. And as you can see, I've already requested phone numbers for call queue and auto attendant. So I'm going to show you how I configure the auto attendant and the call queue. Go to call routing. So you see, I've already created the Ignite auto attendant calling. And here's the phone number I requested earlier. Click on this item. It's showing up. Edit. So here is where you can manage all the configuration for auto attendant. So let me quickly go through this tabs one by one. So you can change the name here, give it a new name. You see the phone numbers here and the other general information you can set up. Business hours. You can easily select the business hours that fits you. I would leave it as 24/7. Here I can set up the customize the company greeting message once the call starts. So I can upload my own audio file or not. I can also customize the prompt message I would like the caller to hear after the company greeting. So here I put it in, welcome to Ignite Teams calling demo. Press 1 for sales and 2 for support. And then now down to menu options. So as you can see, I selected one. I chose 1 for sales, 2 for support. So this is however you wanted to customize for your business. I also have the choices of transferring the call to either individual users in my company or call queue. And I decided to transfer the sales call to the call queue for the sales team. So now I'm going to show you how I configure the call queue next. Since I didn't really change the setting here. So let's go to call queue. once I have the auto attendant in place. So you see I have two different call queues I set up here, and this is how we manage all the details. So click on support. Here again, you can decide what the name you want to give it. The phone number we assigned before for the call queue service. This is the greeting message you can customize for your business. I think my admin Paul previously has uploaded this consultative support audio file. I don't really know what it is. Hope it's not something crazy. We will hear in a moment. We can also use the default music on hold, or you have the choice to customize it as well. Okay, so now how do we decide the call gets distributed? You can either choose attendant, which means the call would ring everyone at the same time, or serial, meaning that it rings one person at a time. And how do we decide who would take the calls? So here you can search and select Office 365 group or the distribution list within your organization, and add that into the call agents pool. So this is how you decide who will take the calls.
Right, and I'll just point out that in our demo configuration, the long-suffering Megan Bowen is the support team at this company.
Yes.
And so at the end of it, you'll see the whole process will ring all the way through down to Megan.
Yeah, yes. And then here you can have more like details managed, like how maximum calls you want to have in a call queue and how long you want the call to wait in the queue. So this is how we set up all the call queues, how we configure the call queues. I think the web page is doing something funny, but here we have, it will pop back in a moment for the phone number here. Okay, now let's see what it happens once I really get a call from the customer.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and going to put my phone on audio, so hopefully that's going to work out, and I'm going to dial into the call queue, and we're going to hear it. Now, what you see on the screen, not yet, let me hit the button. What you're going to see on the screen is Megan's copy of Teams, and I'll just point out that you'll see the toast and how it is configured and what happens. This device supports it as well, the Yealink device, because it's running the same Teams client, which is great. However, I just didn't want too many devices ringing, so I've taken this device out of the play for now, just so that we can focus on this one here. So let me go ahead and fire this up now. I'm going to go ahead and call in. Let's see how audio goes. Okay, awesome.
Welcome to Ignite Teams calling demo. Press 1 for sales and 2 for support.
Let's see what's happened the old support time.
Transferring your call to support.
Hi there. You have reached Contoso Support. Please stand by for our next available agent.
Wow, what a great voice that guy has. Okay, so there it's hunting right now for the next person. And wow, here it comes in. And you can see on the actual screen it says call for support. And it's ringing this PC right now. And I could go ahead as Megan, pick up this call. And I'm going to go ahead and stop that call. But also, like I said before, if this device had been plugged in and this was her primary way of taking calls, she would have seen that same screen pop inside the client that's running on this device. So that's the beauty of having Teams, one client running across all these different devices. You have similar experiences. So that is, folks, auto attendant and call queues. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you.
Now, one thing I'll point out really quickly is for those of you who are UI aficionados, you've noticed that we're still using the Skype for Business original UI for that. The plan is to migrate that UI to the modern portal. This quarter it will go into preview, and then we hope in the next quarter, depending on, obviously like anything else, preview does review bugs. So, but based on everything going well, we'd love to see that feature be lit up, generally available in the modern portal, which will be great. And then going forward, that's where you would manage call queues and auto attendant. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and hop through. I think, let me see if I can, I'll go ahead and hop through. Let me just move to, we have, by the way, in the deck itself, I put a bunch of screenshots that we're not going to show you because obviously we don't have time, but essentially we went through the same material. What I want to do is hop forward into the future section and begin talking about that. Now, it looks like I got less than 5 minutes, so I am going to have to haul carcass, so to speak. So, you know, what is coming really in the next, and that's really what you're interested in, obviously. And this is list here. You can go ahead and grab that. It'll be in the deck. I just announced VoIP calling for everyone. We talked about that. So that actually was on the what's coming, but it arrived just in time for Ignite, which is great. So everyone should be seeing that begin to light up now this week. And as typical with us now with features in the cloud, we roll that out on an ongoing basis. And so we should probably take about the next 4 to 5 weeks rolling it out completely. So give it a little bit of time to appear in your tenant, but that should do that. We also actually, another one that that I have on the what's coming slide, but we actually finished it, was share screen from chat. This was a big ask from a lot of you. Like, hey, where is that darn thing? And I know it's not truly a voice thing, but thank you. This is the nature of the new world of voice, is that we're so deeply integrated with collaboration. It's super important because we used to refer to this in the old days as escalation. Like you start with one thing and then you can escalate all these other kinds of collaborative workloads in, and voice is one of those workloads. So that's great that share screen from chat is joining that. Now, probably more important for many of you, especially if your home country is, and I pick on them a lot, Japan or Germany, we get a lot of requests about some of these features in the advanced routing column. Call park, group call pickup, shared line appearance, location-based routing, a big feature, obviously, for a lot of customers. They want to see that as well, and other stuff as well. And I apologize, but I am going to hustle a little bit. So we will be bringing group call pickup to Teams, and hopefully, like I said, we'll see it by the end of the quarter. But I'm officially in charge of the voice workload and sandbagging. And so I will say that, you know, it may drift into the next quarter. That can happen. But we hope at least within 6 months we'll have that group call pickup out there and available for folks to use. And that will be great. And then call park. Oh my gosh. A lot of people want to see call park in the product as well. And so that will come, and we'll have a whole design set up for using a code to be able to pick up and retrieve calls, be able to move that along as well. Timing similar. Shared line appearance. That is as well will be coming. I don't know. It's curious. This is the last one. I'm just curious. How many feel like this is, you know, you have to have this feature before you would deploy? I'm trying to see here. Okay. So again, revealing the long tail nature of the enterprise voice workload, I'd say about maybe 20 of you raised your hands. But this is coming as well. And then forward to group, again, pretty important. You know, again, you can see this is the blurring line of collaboration in voice, where not just having a separate thing off to the side for voice, but voice being cleanly integrated as a digital asset in your larger collaboration portfolio that you're using in your company, which hopefully is Teams. All right, and of course, we think delegation is very important. We get a lot of feedback on it, so we'll continue to enhance that, adding the mobile app, supporting delegation setup. We're going to try to reduce the manager's workload with delegate-initiated workflow. We're hoping to be able to also make sure that we, as everything, you know, we deliver these features and then we make sure that the IT pro has control of that feature, and that will be coming as well. Great. Okay, so this is actually my last information slide, so running hard and fast here. I want to talk a little bit now. This moves out of like, hey, what's the next feature coming in 6 months? But this is more about the future of the product, right? And so when you look at what we've done today, essentially, you know, for the last year since last Ignite, Microsoft, and within Microsoft, I mean our engineering teams have been working super hard to deliver over 75 features on that roadmap, if you saw that transition roadmap that we published. And part of that roadmap was calling. We have begun to deliver these things. We demonstrated delegate calls. We demonstrated consultative transfer. Next time we'd like to demonstrate both of them together, but you know, we did demonstrate both of them. And also team-based calls, being able to take calls and handle calls for each other as well, right? So that's great, that's today, but many of you might say or whisper to me over a beer, that's table stakes, Paul. What is coming, right? And so one of the things we're exploring now, and this is where we're getting into the vision part of the presentation, so I just want to be clear. This does not mean a feature named Instant Talk will appear at some point in time. But these are concepts we're exploring, like how can we make voice faster, right? Today, voice is still like, hey, I got to dial a number if I'm calling somebody, or I got to go through this thing and deal with it. What if we had voice as a collaborative feature, right? Today already, chat is on, and you can collaborate at any time with someone. What if you could have voice on all the time? We have a significant presence, for instance, in Vancouver now of our engineering teams working there. And so they're already beginning to experiment with dog food features that are not available to customers yet. But we're looking at how can we have someone who's working is essentially an extended member of a team and have voice always available to them. They could literally have their boss walk into the group area and say, "Good morning, Bob." And literally the product understands that you're trying to talk to Bob, who's based in Vancouver, and Bob's online. Bob would hear that almost like a instant or walkie-talkie experience. And so there are things there that are very interesting that we're going to explore. A lot of them will be driven by usage and by customer reaction to those. So we will test those features, and if they don't make sense in environments, perhaps we won't be doing those. But we're going to explore this concept aggressively. And then going farther forward in the future, we're looking at things like attendant calls, role-based calls, outbound customer calls, tying voice as a digital asset to things inside the product like channels. If you use Teams, you know that you create a team, and then a team consists of multiple channels. Imagine a channel dedicated to a call queue or dedicated to something like a call queue where everything is happening inside there, and perhaps even stats or experiences are exposed to managers who can understand what's happening with these calls. So we're going to begin to explore that as well. That is an exploratory mission, right? Again, we have to understand what the market wants because we're trying to get ahead versus saying, hey, deploy X feature. We want to also show you the future of collaboration. So I apologize. I've had to kind of steamroll that a little bit fast. So in summary, these are the next steps, right? Obviously, there are people who will buy voice and then go to Teams, but I don't think there's very many of those. Most of you are going to have to make sure that Teams is a product that your users want to use inside. So you're going to have to embrace Teams. If you haven't yet, start with it today. Many of you already have. Then you can start your voice pilot and go in and get on top of that and begin looking at how you're going to deal with that. You can plan your deployment, and then finally, acquisition's important, right? Understand what Microsoft does here. You're going to need phone system. That comes with E5, or it is a SKU you can buy and add to E3. And then think hard about how you want to do PSTN provisioning around the world. It's probably going to be a mix of calling plans and direct routing inside Microsoft, and you'll have to decide what makes the most sense. Seeing the direct routing on Friday is super important. You can, for instance, have calling plan and routing available and to your users in the same country, which is very interesting. So you could have a calling plan for them, but also use direct routing to deal with expensive routes in your calling plans. So there's a lot of options, and the only way you're going to understand those is if you hit that session on Friday. Okay, so I've already showed this slide a lot at the beginning of the session, but it shows you the other opportunities. And then finally, the evaluation, right? So if this session was good for you, my name is Paul, that was Anna. If you did not like this session, then her name is Paul, and my name is Anna. We'll try to take just a couple of questions, and I apologize again, 45 minutes is so tough for this topic. If not, yell your question and I will repeat it. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, are those features you just blew through at the end of this going to be also available on the mobile app? Yes, that's the intent. Hi there. Was a little, yeah, I just got feedback my Australian accent is bad. Yes, it is. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna, if it's okay, because I have so many people looking for questions. So the question is, what about direct routing for Skype for Business Online? That has been a hot topic. Today, unfortunately, we have no announcements for you around direct routing for SFBO. We continue to look at that as a potential. So we haven't ruled it out yet, but there's a lot of internal discussion around it. There's a lot of impact to the product and how things work. And so engineering is still looking at it and understanding what we'll do there. So I'm sorry, I don't have an announcement on that today.
What about dynamic 911?
E911 is dynamic. 911. So we are looking at that as well, although we don't have any announcements today for that. Yeah, so I've been hearing that dynamic 911 is a roadblock. We understand that. And so I don't have details on what we're doing on that front. So I don't know if we're working with a partner. I assume we would have to for that, to provide that. But I just don't have any information for you today. Right. So I think that slide that I showed, so the question is, what about VIP delegate management or on behalf of? So we showed a little bit of that in the demo, but we also expect to be able to add this. So we're going to continue to advance delegation as well. So I expect that would come as well. Yeah, so the issue is, hey, when I log into as a guest in another tenant to work with someone, I lose whatever licensing configuration I have in my home tenant. Today, that's a great point. I'll flag that to the engineering. Right now, that's a real challenge for us because the licensing stems from where you're logging in from, right? That's the whole thing. So if you log on as guest at abc.com, the licensing is attached to that thing. So I don't believe that is on the roadmap yet, but I do know in general we're looking to improve the guest experience. So that's a great feedback, and I'll take that back. Yeah, totally. I totally get it. Yeah, that's a challenge. Okay. Yeah. So the ask is, hey, what about other countries for calling plans? And so the answer is, we're not announcing any new countries at this time. You should not expect us to add any new countries at this time. We continue to evaluate particular markets and see. As you know, it is a huge challenge with regulatory conditions in different countries, and some countries simply will not let us in because guess what? Their #1 revenue generator in some of these countries is their phone company. And so there's a tie from the very top of these countries saying, no, we're not going to allow competition in. So at this point, I have no further announcements, nor do I expect to have any about new countries coming. The guidance, and hopefully it was clear today, was for the countries we have, look at calling plans. For those who don't, direct routing is your answer. And I heard someone say direct routing is perfect, so I'd like to finish the session. No, sorry. Go ahead. Are you asking for audio conferencing in, sorry. Yeah, we have no announcements around audio conferencing being supported by direct routing at this time. Yeah, so the answer is the same. So right now, we don't have any announcements for you publicly around that. I guarantee that we're looking at all these different options, but there's nothing I can say today publicly.
So for the codec, it's natively?
Yes. So the question is, is the Silk codec supported? And yes, it is a native. Yeah, so that is something I'd probably have to go back and double check. Those are the older options. I'm sorry, off the top of my head right now, I can't think of what the answer is. I believe, yes, we do fall back to those as well. Yes, thank you. Okay, you know what? I'm way over time, and probably the next presenter wishes I would die and go away. And probably not in that order. First go away, then die, so I don't make a mess up here. So I'm gonna, and I promised I would be at a customer session at 10 o'clock, which I'm probably already gonna be late for. I'm gonna step out and try to take a couple more questions, and I'm gonna run. So thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate it.